Hi, everybody, and welcome to video number 3 in chapter 14. And just to review where we left off, we were looking at this schedule of cost of goods manufactured. And we get the cost of goods manufactured by taking our direct materials that we use, add the direct labor, and add factory overhead. So in review, those three elements, let's call them our total manufacturing costs. Then we start with our beginning work in process, and we then have the total cost of work in process, back out the inventory in ending work in process, and that gives us the cost of goods manufactured. And this cost of goods manufactured is not total manufacturing costs. It's cost of goods manufactured, and that is what has been moved into finished goods inventory. Okay, so to review, here's our key calculations. Total manufacturing costs are the direct materials used, direct labor used, factory overhead used. Cost of goods manufactured starts with total manufacturing costs, and it adds the beginning work in process and subtracts the ending work in process, representing what has now been moved into finished goods. Okay, so here's that cost of goods manufactured, and it goes into the income statement here. And the work in process ending inventory goes onto the balance sheet as the work in process inventory at the end of the month. And finished goods ending inventory then becomes, we come back to the income statement, and the finished goods ending inventory is subtracted then from the beginning finished goods. And our cost of goods sold, that represents the finished goods that went out the door to our customers. What was left was the finished goods ending inventory. Okay, then we have our period expenses that followed gross profit here and here. Period expenses, not product expenses, totaling net income. Okay, trends in managerial accounting. We've had many since I first started in business, and digital manufacturing is one of them. Big emphasis on digital operations. Much more focus on a customer orientation. Manufacturers have figured out that the customer is important, and we want to make sure that we meet, maybe not exceed, but meet the customer's expectations with the lowest possible cost, best value for the dollar, right? And then e-commerce in the last 10 years has just been dramatically increased. And manufacturers constantly work on practices which make their processes more efficient and lean, as it's called here. The global economy has also expanded quite a bit. We have trading partners all over the world that provide different things for us. And there's been a move from manufacturing into the service economy. I think that's my opinion. Part of that reason is that we have automated so much of manufacturing that the people that were employed in manufacturing now are more employed in service industries. And then we have a value chain, which we'll talk about here a little later in the course, where we add value to our product along the way. And we look to see those processes which do not add value, and we try to eliminate them. Okay, so lean principles. The goal of a lean business model then is to eliminate waste while satisfying the customer. and providing a positive return naturally to the customer, to the company. A company needs to make a profit. I think that goes without saying. However, satisfying the customer, we want to satisfy the customer, but maybe just meet their expectations so that we can do it in the most cost-effective way. Continuous improvement rejects the notion of good enough and challenges employees and managers to constantly, continuously improve operations. This particular mindset has been especially prevalent in manufacturing environment over the last 10, 15 years. Okay, which leads us to total quality management, TQM. Quality improvement applied to its business activities, and we must constantly focus on improving quality and focus on higher standards, seeking to uncover waste. There's an old adage in Japanese manufacturing companies: how big should an inventory be? Well, it's like a river, so they say. As we lower the river, lower the inventory, we see the rocks, which represents the waste. So we go out and we pull out those rocks. Then we lower the river a little more and constantly focus on a higher standard, which is having the absolute minimum amount of inventory we need, at the same time have what we need. Okay, so just in time manufacturing. We receive the customer's order, we schedule production, and we receive the materials just in time for production. While I worked for Chrysler many years ago, I remember when we converted a plant to just in time. And previously, we had over 5 million square feet in our automotive assembly plant. With the implementation of just in time, you didn't need these huge square footage to store inventory and then wreck them out to the plant floor. I can still remember the truck showing up with the tires that we were going to put on the car that day, and they roll up. The tires roll right out to the assembly line. Most amazing process. So we complete parts just in time for assembly into products, and that's parts that we make, product or parts that we purchase. Just in time, more than just a buzzword. Okay, value chain. I mentioned that earlier, and it refers to the series of principles that add value to a company's product or services. We can use our lean principles to increase efficiency and profits. And here they show that value chain. We acquire raw materials, it goes into the oven, and we bake it into some cookies, it looks like, and we sell it, and that goes out as service business. Okay, corporate social responsibility. Corporations must consider the demands of employees, suppliers, and society. We call that CSR, corporate social responsibilities, and it goes beyond the law. And employees are impressed when we work to practice this CSR. Triple bottom line focuses on financial, social, and environmental measures. And that's good business in my experience. And adopting a triple bottom line impacts how a business reports things. All right. In this learning objective, we're going to look at assessing raw materials inventory management, using raw materials inventory turnover, and days sales in raw material inventory. So here is our raw materials inventory, and we take our raw material inventory beginning, and add our ending raw materials inventory and divide that little beauty by 2. That gives us our average materials inventory. And then we're going to take that and divide that into cost of goods sold. And here, as you see, we get 10.01. That's a turnover. To me, that's not as valuable as the next piece of this, which is the day sales in raw materials inventory. And here, we're going to take the raw materials that we use, divided that into our ending raw materials, and multiply that times 365 days. So in this case, that's going to be $9,000 divided by the raw materials used, which was 85,500. And so that tells me that I have 38.4 days rounded. Okay. I misspoke a little bit. Let's go back. The calculation here is going to be raw materials used divided by average raw materials. So our average raw materials is shown here. And so this is going to be the raw materials used, 85,500. And then this would be our average raw materials. And then as we move into this slide, the ending raw materials divided by the raw materials used, multiplied by 365. And that's going to tell me how many days of raw materials I have, should there be any problems. Okay, that concludes Chapter 14. And when we return, we will continue with Chapter 15. Until that time, bye for now.